Hi everyone, welcome to back the channel. Auto Rush. In the brutal world of modern warfare, few weapons inspire fear quite like the TOS-1. It's not a tank, it's not just a rocket launcher. It's a devastating blend of both and armored, thermobaric weapon system designed to obliterate enemy fortifications and terrify anyone on the receiving end. The TOS-1, also known as the Buratino, is Russia's answer to the chaos of close-range, high-intensity combat. With its roots in Cold War-era engineering and its devastating presence in modern conflicts like Syria and Ukraine, the TOS-1 is one of the most terrifying battlefield tools ever developed. But what exactly is the TOS-1? Why is it called a heavy flamethrower even though it fires rockets? And why are militaries and analysts around the world paying close attention to it? The TOS-1 system was developed by the Soviet Union in the late 1980s. But its roots stretch back to the earlier ideas of close support artillery. During the Soviet-Afghan War in the 1980s, Soviet forces realized that traditional rocket artillery like the BM-21 Grad was effective for general bombardment but lacked the accuracy and punch needed to clear mountain caves, bunkers, or hardened positions in urban terrain. A solution was needed to something with the firepower of artillery but tailored for close-range support of infantry and armored units. This solution took the form of the TOS-1, a tracked armored vehicle with a multiple rocket launcher system mounted on top, all based on the chassis of the legendary T-72 tank. But what truly sets the TOS-1 apart is its ammunition, and not just standard high-explosive warheads, but thermobaric rockets. Also known as fuel-air explosives, thermobaric weapons don't explode in the conventional sense. Instead, they release a cloud of highly flammable aerosol which then ignites, creating a massive pressure wave and extreme heat. The result, a searing, overpressurized inferno that can melt fortifications, suck oxygen from bunkers, and neutralize enemy personnel inside caves or buildings even if they're hiding behind thick walls. The original TOS-1 system carries 30 rockets in a large, boxy launcher. Each rocket is 220 mm in diameter and has a range of up to 6 km in the early versions. Later iterations, like the TOS-1A Solntsepyok, improved on this with extended range and more advanced targeting systems, but the basic concept remained the same: roll up close to the enemy, unleash hell, and then move out before counterattack can materialize. In terms of operation, the TOS-1 is fairly straightforward but brutally effective. A typical TOS-1 battery includes several launcher vehicles and resupply trucks. The launcher vehicle, again, based on the T-72A, has armor protection to survive small arms and shrapnel, allowing it to operate near the front lines. The crew, usually 3 or 4 men, uses a fire control system to aim the launcher. Once the coordinates are locked in, the TOS-1 can fire a full salvo of 30 rockets in under 15 seconds. The effect of such a barrage is catastrophic. The thermobaric warheads create a blast wave that flattens buildings, ignites everything flammable, and generates intense overpressure that can crush lungs and rupture internal organs. The psychological impact is equally devastating. Survivors often report being stunned, disoriented, or even mentally broken after witnessing a TOS-1 attack. Despite its firepower, the TOS-1 is not a strategic weapon. It's a tactical battlefield system meant to be used in support of infantry and armor operations, especially in urban environments or fortified positions. That's what makes it unique compared to long-range rocket artillery like the Smerch or the Grad. The TOS-1 is a close-in brawler, a brutal tool for flushing out enemies in buildings, caves, or trenches. Interestingly, while the original TOS-1 saw limited deployment in the final days of the Cold War, it has since become a key player in many modern conflicts. In Chechnya, Russian forces used it to great effect in urban combat. In Syria, the TOS-1A was deployed against rebel and ISIS positions in heavily built-up areas. Its thermobaric payload was especially useful in reducing fortified enemy hideouts and caves. One of the most widely covered uses of the TOS-1 came during the conflict in Ukraine. In both the 2014 Donbas conflict and the full-scale 2022 invasion, The TOS-1A was employed by Russian forces in multiple engagements. Videos surfaced online showing the horrifying power of the system as entire blocks of buildings were engulfed in flames and shockwaves. The psychological effect of these weapons is no less important than their physical destruction. The threat of a TOS-1 strike forces defenders to think twice before holding a position too long. Let's take a moment to talk about the TOS-1A Solntsepyok, which means Blazing Sunday. Introduced in the early 2000s, the TOS-1A improved upon the original TOS-1 by increasing the firing range to 10 kilometers and reducing the number of launch tubes from 30 to 24, allowing for a more compact, lighter vehicle with better mobility. The rockets themselves were also improved, with more effective thermobaric payloads and better accuracy. As with most modern Russian systems, the TOS-1A integrates with other units through digital communication and command systems. This allows for better coordination with infantry, tanks, and OVs, providing reconnaissance data. However, despite its terrifying offensive capabilities, the TOS-1A is still relatively vulnerable. It must be protected by other armored units or kept behind cover, as it's not designed to take direct tank or ATGM fire. Its armor is good for protection against small arms and shell fragments, but not against guided missiles. That said, the TOS-1's role is not about prolonged duels. It's about delivering a massive shock attack and then relocating quickly. That's why it's often seen in rapid offensive operations or during sieges where defenders are entrenched. It's also why the TOS-1 is often accompanied by drones, infantry support vehicles, and other assets to secure its flanks. Let's talk about the effectiveness of thermobaric weapons from a technical standpoint. When the TOS-1's rocket explodes, the thermobaric effect creates a high-temperature cloud that can reach up to 3,000 degrees Celsius. The blast wave expands more slowly than a conventional explosion, allowing it to penetrate into bunkers, caves, and buildings before igniting. The result is a fireball that consumes all oxygen in the vicinity, effectively suffocating anyone inside. Because of these traits, the TOS-1 is especially deadly against enemies in confined spaces. Conventional bombs might damage a building, but defenders inside can survive if they're behind cover. Thermobarics, on the other hand, turn the building into a death trap. The pressure wave reflects off walls, bounces back and forth, and intensifies. It's this unique mechanism that makes the TOS-1 such an effective siege weapon. However, it's worth noting that thermobaric weapons are controversial. Many human rights organizations and watchdogs have raised concerns about their use, particularly in civilian-populated areas. Since thermobarics can't distinguish between combatants and non-combatants, their use in urban warfare raises serious ethical and legal questions. Still, from a purely military perspective, their destructive power is hard to deny. In recent years, the TOS-1 and TOS-1A systems have been exported to a number of countries, including Iraq, Kazakhstan, Algeria, Armenia, and Saudi Arabia. Iraq notably used the system during operations against ISIS in Mosul, where the dense urban environment made it difficult to root out entrenched fighters. The TOS-1's thermobaric barrage was instrumental in clearing tunnels and bunkers. In 2022, Russia unveiled a new upgrade, the TOS-2, also known as TOS-1. This new version is lighter, more mobile, and mounted on a wheeled 6x6 chassis instead of a tracked tank platform. This improves strategic mobility, allowing the TOS-2 to be deployed more quickly and to operate over longer distances on road. It also carries a more sophisticated fire control system, better navigation, and improved survivability thanks to its modern armor and electronic countermeasures. Crucially, the TOS-2 doesn't require a separate reload vehicle. It has an automated reloading system, which increases its combat efficiency and allows for quicker redeployment between fire missions. Though the number of launch tubes is reduced to 18, the rockets themselves have been enhanced for greater range and explosive power. Whether it's the TOS-1, the TOS-1A, or the newer TOS-2, the principle remains the same: maximum destruction in minimal time, with a psychological impact that can shatter enemy morale. It's this fear factor that makes the TOS family stand out even among the vast arsenal of modern artillery systems. For soldiers on the ground, especially those facing the threat of a TOS strike, The weapon isn't just another tool, it's a nightmare. The very sound of the launch is often enough to cause panic. The roar of the rockets, the sudden eruption of towering flames, the shockwave that slams into walls and lungs it's an experience few forget. As warfare continues to evolve with drones, cyber warfare, and precision-guided munitions, weapons like the TOS-1 remind us that raw, overwhelming force still has its place on the battlefield. The modern Russian military continues to develop and deploy these systems not just as tactical weapons, but also as tools of intimidation and deterrence. Ultimately, the TOS-1 isn't about subtlety. It's about power, unapologetic, brutal, and terrifying. It's a relic of Soviet doctrine mixed with modern innovation, and its legacy is likely to continue evolving in the coming decades. Whether we see more of the TOS-2 or entirely new generations of thermobaric weapons, one thing is clear: the battlefield has room for fire, and Russia's TOS systems are here to deliver it.